Welcome to section 5.1, Overview of Photosynthesis. In this section, we're going to demystify photosynthesis, the way certain organisms turn sunlight into usable chemical energy. Think of it as nature's solar panel system. Plants, algae, and some bacteria capture light energy and store it in the bonds of sugar molecules. As we move through the slides, keep one big idea in mind. Photosynthesis is the starting point for most of the energy that moves through food webs. If you've eaten today or taken a deep breath, you've benefited from photosynthesis. By the end of this mini lecture, you'll be able to explain what photosynthesis does, why it matters to other living things, and what goes in and what comes out, and where in the cell the process happens. First, we'll sketch the overall process of photosynthesis. Then we'll connect it to everyday life, why it matters to humans, animals, and ecosystems. We'll identify the key reactants and products using the overall equation. Finally, we'll tour the main structures, chloroplasts, thylakoids, and the stroma, so you can picture where each stage occurs. As you listen, focus on the big picture rather than memorizing details. Energy comes in as sunlight, carbon comes in as carbon dioxide, and the cell builds energy-rich sugars while releasing oxygen. Autotrophs are the self-feeders, organisms that make their own food. A key group is photoautotrophs, plants, many algae, and cyanobacteria. They use sunlight to power the building of carbohydrates from carbon dioxide and water. It's easy to picture a houseplant by a sunny window, but remember that huge amounts of photosynthesis happen in the ocean too. Microscopic algae capture sunlight and help drive global food chains. They even contribute a large share of the oxygen in the air we breathe. Heterotrophs are other feeders. They can't make their own food and must eat other organisms for energy and carbon. Humans, deer, and wolves are all heterotrophs. Follow the energy. Plants capture sunlight and make sugars. Deer eat the plants, wolves eat the deer, and when we eat animal or plant products, we're tapping into energy that ultimately started with photosynthesis. So even meat and dairy trace back to green plants, or to algae and photosynthetic microbes in aquatic food webs. Photosynthesis is the process that converts sunlight into chemical energy stored in sugars. It happens in plants, algae, and some bacteria. From a chemistry viewpoint, cells use light energy to rearrange carbon dioxide and water into glucose, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. From a life on Earth viewpoint, that sugar becomes fuel for cells and the starting point for building many other biological molecules. This is why photosynthesis underpins the energy supply for most ecosystems. Here's the summary equation. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water in the presence of light energy produce 1 molecule of glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen. You might be wondering, where does the oxygen come from? Well, it comes from water. Think of this equation as a scoreboard, not the play-by-play. Under the hood, there are many coordinated reactions that together transform low energy molecules, carbon dioxide and water, into high energy sugars. In plants, photosynthesis takes place in chloroplasts, tiny organelles concentrated in the leaf's middle layer, the mesophyll. Inside each chloroplast are stacks of membrane sacs called thylakoids. The surrounding fluid is the stroma. Location matters. The light-dependent reactions happen at the thylakoid membranes, where chlorophyll absorbs light. The Calvin cycle happens in the stroma, where the cell uses energy carriers from the light reactions to build sugars from carbon dioxide. Photosynthesis runs in two linked stages. First, the light-dependent reactions capture energy from sunlight. They use water, release oxygen, and make the energy carriers ATP and NADPH. Second, the Calvin cycle uses those carriers to fix carbon, pulling CO2 from the air and assembling sugar molecules. Think of the light reactions as charging the batteries, and the Calvin cycle as using those charged batteries to build the product. Neither stage works alone, they're a team. Autotrophs form the base of most food chains. They manufacture their own chemical energy, and in doing so, support nearly all other life. Heterotrophs depend on that output for food and, importantly, for oxygen. A quick real world lens. Walk through a grocery store, and nearly everything, from produce to bread to dairy, connects back to photosynthesis. Even your ability to breathe during that walk depends on oxygen released by photosynthetic organisms across the planet. Photosynthesis converts light energy into chemical energy, producing sugars and releasing oxygen. In plants, it occurs in chloroplasts through two coordinated stages: the light dependent reactions at the thylakoid membranes and the Calvin cycle in the stroma. This process underlies most food webs and supports aerobic life by maintaining atmospheric oxygen. As you study photosynthesis further, keep the flow in mind. Light energy in, carbon fixed from CO2, sugars built, O2 released.